Greetings, cozy knights. Lower your swords and rest by the fire. Tonight, we journey through the deepest unsolved mysteries of Elden Ring's lands between. Drop a comment below and tell me where you're listening from tonight, and what games you want me to cover next, and subscribe if this helps you sleep. The Gloam-Eyed Queen's true identity. Perhaps no mystery in Elden Ring has captivated players more than the identity of the Gloam-Eyed Queen. We know she was an Empyrean like Marika, wielding the power of destined death through black flame incantations that could kill even gods. The Godskin Apostles served her, skinning divine beings and fashioning their hides into ceremonial garb. Malekith eventually defeated her and sealed away the rune of death. But her ultimate fate remains unclear. Did she die? Or was she merely imprisoned? Some theorists believe Melina might be the Gloam-Eyed Queen, pointing to her closed eye that opens with violet flame in the frenzied flame ending. Others suggest she was completely erased from history. Item descriptions refer to her in past tense, yet provide no confirmation of her death. The Shadow of the Erdtree expansion disappointingly provided no new information about this enigmatic figure, leaving one of the game's central mysteries forever unsolved. Torrent's previous master. When Melina gifts you the spectral steed Whistle early in your journey, she mentions that Torrent chose you. But who owned Torrent before? Both Melina and Ranni recognize the spectral steed, suggesting his previous master was someone significant in the Lands Between's history. The mystery deepens when you realize Torrent must have belonged to someone who moved between the realms, as the steed can traverse both the living world and spectral planes. Was the previous owner connected to Queen Marika's lineage, explaining why both Melina and Ranni know of him? Perhaps Torrent belonged to another Tarnished who failed in their quest to become Elden Lord, their story lost to time. Or maybe the previous master was Melina herself, and she's forgotten due to memory loss. The game provides no answers, only tantalizing hints that Torrent's history is tied to major players in the world's past. Malenia and Miquella's missing shadows. Every Empyrean is supposed to be given a shadow by the two fingers, a loyal beast warrior to serve as protector and enforcer. Marika had Malekith, and Ranni had Bled. So where are the shadows for Malenia and Miquella? The siblings are confirmed Empyreans, cursed from birth, but still chosen by the greater will. Did they never receive shadows? And if so, why were they passed over? Some theories suggest their shadows were killed before we arrived in the Lands Between, possibly during the chaos following the Shattering. Others propose that Malenia's Scarlet Rot, or Miquella's Eternal Youth, somehow prevented the shadows from manifesting properly. There's also the disturbing possibility that the shadows exist but have been corrupted or transformed beyond recognition. The Shadow of the Erdtree DLC finally revealed Messmer as Marika's other child, but his shadow Gaius doesn't explain why Malenia and Miquella lack theirs. The Colosseum's original purpose. 3 sealed Colosseums exist in Elden Ring, one in Limgrave, one in Caelid, and one in Lindell. Players eventually gained access to them for PvP combat. But what were they originally built for? The architecture suggests they predate the Erdtree's age, with stonework that matches older civilizations. Were they arenas where champions proved their worth before the Elden Ring was established? Perhaps they hosted gladiatorial games during the reign of the dragons, when Placidusax ruled as Elden Lord. The Lendell Colosseum's location within the capital city indicates it held significant cultural importance. Some item descriptions hint at blood sacrifice rituals, suggesting the Colosseums were places where warriors offered their lives to honor the gods. But why were all 3 sealed? What event caused society to turn away from these structures? The lack of explanation for their closure suggests something terrible happened within their walls, something so disturbing that future generations locked them away and tried to forget. Placidusax's fled god. Dragon Lord Placidusax waits in a storm beyond time, endlessly anticipating the return of his god. But which god fled and why? The remembrance states his god abandoned him, but provides no explanation for this desertion. Was this god the greater will itself, or a different outer god that ruled before the Erdtree era? The ancient dragons wielded red lightning and followed their dragon lord with absolute devotion, yet their deity simply vanished. Did the god flee from the greater will's arrival, unable to compete with a more powerful entity? Or did Placidusax's god recognize the futility of resisting the new order and retreat to preserve itself? The fact that Placidusax retreated to a space outside normal time suggests he's still hoping his god will return, despite countless ages passing. This loyalty is both touching and tragic. A once mighty Elden Lord reduced to waiting in a crumbling sky city for a deity that likely will never come back. The identity of the Knights Cavalry. These black armored knights on spectral horses patrol the lands between at night, guarding specific locations with deadly efficiency. But who are they? Their armor suggests a unified military order, yet no faction claims them. Are they remnants of Godwyn's Golden Order knights, transformed by his death into undead guardians? Or do they serve a different master entirely? Their appearance only at night and connection to spectral steeds links them to death and the spirit world. Perhaps they're cursed warriors who failed Queen Marika and now serve penance by endlessly patrolling roads they once traveled in life. The Knights Cavalry drop unique weapons and armor that suggest they were once noble, warriors who fell from grace. Their patrol routes seem deliberately placed to prevent Tarnished from reaching important locations, implying someone or something commands them. But who gave these orders, and do the knights even remember their original purpose? Godwyn's continuing growth. Prince Godwyn was the first demigod to die during the Night of the Black Knives. His body transformed into a grotesque root system that spreads beneath the lands between, spawning those who live in death, wherever his corpse husks emerge. But why does he keep growing? Death isn't supposed to work this way, even in Elden Ring's twisted world. The roots suggest Godwyn's death is incomplete or wrong somehow, as if his soul died but his body refuses to stop living. His transformation coincides with the spread of Deathroot and the proliferation of undead enemies throughout the realm. Some believe Godwyn's continuous growth is an attempt to reclaim life through sheer persistence, his demigod vitality refusing to accept mortality. Others think he's being deliberately kept in this state by someone who benefits from the chaos his spreading corpse creates. The catacombs and underground areas filled with his root-like remains suggest he's slowly consuming the entire world from below. The Jar folk's consciousness. Living jars like Alexander and Jar Bairn walk and talk throughout the lands between, filled with warrior remains that somehow grant them consciousness. But how does this work? The Jars claim they're trying to become great warriors by absorbing the flesh and skills of dead champions. Yet this raises disturbing questions about identity and existence. Is Alexander himself, or is he a collective consciousness of everyone inside him? When he speaks, whose voice are we hearing? The process of creating living jars involves stuffing bodies into ceramic vessels, which should result in mindless constructs. Instead, the jars develop distinct personalities and goals. Jarburg, a peaceful village of living jars, suggests they form a society and culture. They even have a leader, the Jar Potentate, implying hierarchical structure. But what animates them? Is there a central spirit inhabiting each jar, with the corpses merely providing strength? Rani's original body. When you discover Rani's tower, you find her spirit inhabiting a doll, while her original body lies nearby, burnt and lifeless. How did this transfer happen? And where did the doll come from? The doll was crafted by her mentor, the Snow Witch, but the process of moving Rani's consciousness into it remains unexplained. Did she perform a ritual, or did someone help her? The burned body shows she suffered a violent death, likely during the night of the Black Knives when she orchestrated Godwyn's assassination. But Rani's soul should have been the one destroyed, not her body. Her plan involved using the black knife to slay her flesh while preserving her soul in the doll form. This suggests she had the doll prepared beforehand, knowing she would need it. The transition must have been immediate, or there would have been a window where she existed as a disembodied soul, vulnerable to enemies. The Windmill Village Dancers. In the Altus Plateau, you'll encounter a village of old women dancing ecstatically around fires, wearing crowns of flowers and laughing maniacally. They seem harmless until they attack with vicious knives and blood magic. What's happening here? A spirit in the area mentions these women skin people, connecting them to the nearby Godskin Apostle boss. But why are they dancing? The combination of celebration and violence suggests a ritual, possibly one meant to summon or honor the Godskin Apostle. Their flower crowns and dancing could be a perverted version of a fertility or harvest celebration, twisted into something dark. The old women's laughter feels forced, as if they're compelled to appear joyful while committing atrocities. Are they worshipping the gloam-eyed queen, celebrating destined death? Or have they been driven mad by exposure to the Godskin Apostle's presence? The giants' ancient sin. The fire giants were nearly wiped out by Marika's forces, with only one survivor left chained atop the forge of the giants. But what did they do to deserve this genocide? Item descriptions mention the giants committed a sin against the Erd Tree, but never specify what that sin was. Some players theorize the giant's flame posed an existential threat to the Erd Tree, which is made of wood and would burn if exposed to their power. Others believe the giants simply refused to submit to Marika's rule, choosing extinction over servitude. The mountaintops of the giants is littered with massive skeletons, evidence of Marika's thoroughness in exterminating them. The surviving giant is forced to tend the flame that could destroy the Erd Tree, a cruel irony that suggests Marika wanted him to suffer specifically for his people's supposed crime. Melina's true nature. Melina appears at the start of your journey, offering you an accord. She'll turn runes into strength if you take her to the base of the Erd Tree. But who is she really? She claims her purpose was given to her by her mother at the foot of the Erd Tree, and various clues suggest Marika is that mother. Yet if Melina is Marika's daughter, she's unlike any other demigod. She has no great rune, commands no army, and seems to exist outside the Shattering's conflicts. Her ability to turn your runes into power suggests she has a unique connection to the Erd Tree itself. Perhaps she's a spirit created by Marika specifically to guide the Tarnished. A living tool designed for your journey. Or maybe she's something more sinister. In the frenzied flame ending, her closed eye opens, revealing a purple flame identical to the gloam-eyed queen's supposed power. The Snow Witch's identity. Rani mentions her mentor, the Snow Witch, who taught her magic and crafted the doll body Rani now inhabits. But we never meet this witch, never see her mentioned anywhere else in the game. Who was she, and what happened to her? The Snow Witch's magic focuses on cold sorceries, distinct from the Carian royal family's typical glintstone magic. This suggests she came from a different magical tradition, possibly from a distant land. Her ability to create the four-armed doll body implies incredible craftsmanship and knowledge of soul manipulation. Did she teach Rani the technique for transferring consciousness between bodies? Or was Rani the first experiment, with the Snow Witch perfecting the doll specifically for this purpose? The timing of the Snow Witch's disappearance is suspicious. She vanishes before Rani orchestrates the Night of the Black Knives, as if she knew to distance herself from what was coming. The outer god's true number. Throughout Elden Ring, we encounter evidence of multiple outer gods vying for influence in the lands between. The Greater Will, the Formless Mother, the God of Rot, the Frenzied, Flame, and others. But how many exist total? The game deliberately keeps this vague, mentioning outer gods in item descriptions without cataloguing them. Some are clearly defined entities with understandable goals, while others are barely referenced. The Greater Will seems most powerful, having successfully installed its order through Marika and the Elden Ring. But the other outer gods aren't destroyed, merely suppressed or waiting for opportunities to strike. The Formless Mother grants blood magic to Mog, the Scarlet Rot god cursed millennia, and the Frenzied Flame seeks to burn everything. Are these all separate entities, or are some masks worn by the same god? The Numen race's origins. Queen Marika is Numen, as are the Black Knife assassins who killed Godwyn. The Numen are described as a race from outside the lands between, but where exactly did they come from? Their scarcity suggests they're either dying out, or most never came to this land. The few Numen we encounter seem to possess exceptional abilities. Marika became a god, and the Black Knife assassins can turn invisible and kill demigods. This implies Numen have inherent qualities that make them capable of extraordinary feats. But why did they leave their homeland? Were they fleeing something, or seeking opportunities in a new land? The game's vagueness about their origins feels deliberate, as if the Numen themselves don't want their history known. Perhaps they're exiles, cast out from their original society for crimes or heresy. Marika's motivation for shattering the Elden Ring. Queen Marika herself shattered the Elden Ring, triggering the Shattering War and all the chaos that followed. But why? The game presents multiple possible explanations without confirming any. Some believe Godwyn's death drove her to despair, causing her to lash out at the Golden Order that failed to protect her son. Others think the shattering was planned long before, part of a scheme to escape the Greater Will's control. Marika's imprisonment within the Erdtree suggests the Greater Will punished her. But did she anticipate this consequence? Her famous words, "I have seen every corner of creation, and yet I still cannot fathom the depths of their disgust," suggest profound disillusionment with the gods she served. Perhaps she learned something terrible about the Greater Will's true nature or ultimate plan. The Albinauric's creation and purpose. The Albinaurics are artificial beings created through some unknown process, divided into first and second generation, with distinct appearances and abilities. But who created them, and why? The first generation Albinaurics, grey-skinned with weak legs, seem to be failed experiments. The second generation, the frog-like creatures in Liurnia and Mogwyn Palace, appear more successful, but are treated as monsters. Latenna, one of the few Albinaurics you can have extended conversations with, suggests her people were created to serve but rebelled, or were abandoned. The Haligtree has a large Albinauric population, suggesting Miquella offered them refuge. But from what? Who would want to hunt down artificial beings? Perhaps their creators turned on them, or the Golden Order persecuted them for being unnatural. Radan's pledge to Miquella. The shadow of the Erd tree. DLC revealed that Radan and Miquella made some kind of vow to each other before the shattering. This transforms our understanding of Radan's motivations, but raises more questions than it answers. What did they promise each other? The DLC shows Miquella needed Radan as a consort for his ascension to godhood. But did Radan know this when he made the vow? If so, why would the proud general agree to become someone else's consort? The vow must have been made before Radan lost his mind to scarlet rot, suggesting he was capable of rational thought when he agreed. But the Radan we fight in Caelid has no memory of Miquella or any promise. Did the rot destroy those memories, or did something else? The omen curse's origin. Omens like Morgoth and Morg are born with horns and considered cursed by society. But where does this curse come from, and why is it treated as evil? The game never explains what makes someone be born an omen, only that it's seen as shameful. Omen babies have their horns cut off, a brutal practice that often kills them. Those who survive grow up as outcasts. But what if being omen isn't actually a curse? The horns and physical power might be blessings from an outer god or ancient entity. The omen's connection to a formless darkness suggests they might be touched by the formless mother or another blood god. If so, the Golden Order's persecution of omens could be an attempt to suppress a rival god's influence. The primeval current's nature. Master Lusat and Azur studied the primeval current, a fundamental force of glintstone sorcery. Their research transformed them into crystallized husks, still alive but barely human. What is the primeval current, and why does studying it cause this transformation? The primeval current seems to be pure magic in its most fundamental form, unfiltered by civilization's understanding. Sorcerers who glimpse it become obsessed, their bodies slowly crystallizing as they're pulled deeper into magical understanding. Is the current alive and conscious, consuming those who study it? Or is it simply too much knowledge for mortal minds to handle, the magical equivalent of staring into the sun? Selen's questline involves her trying to gather the wisdom of Lusat and Azur, hoping to restore the primeval current's teachings to the Academy of Raya Lucaria. The dragon cult's sudden disappearance. During the Age of Dragons before the Erd Tree, the dragon cult led worship of the ancient dragons. Godwyn befriended Fortisax and learned dragon incantations, helping establish a brief period where humans and dragons coexisted. But the cult vanished almost completely, with only scattered ruins and abandoned churches remaining. What happened? Did Marika suppress the cult because dragons represented a rival power structure? Or did the dragons themselves abandon their human followers after some catastrophe? The few remaining dragon cult items and spells suggest the practice was once widespread, with elaborate churches and dedicated priests. Lendel's capital city has dragon cult iconography incorporated into its architecture, proving the practice was once accepted even at the heart of the Golden Order. The Black Knife Conspiracy's full scope. The night of the Black Knife saw Godwyn assassinated by mysterious figures wielding weapons imbued with the rune of death. We know Rani orchestrated the plot, and the assassins were Numen women with ties to Marika. But how deep does the conspiracy go? Did Marika know about the plot and allow it, or was she betrayed by her own people? The Black Knife assassins had to acquire weapons capable of killing a demigod, which requires fragments of destined death stolen from Malekith. This implies they had help from someone with access to Marika's shadow beast, someone powerful enough to bypass his defenses. Could Marika herself have provided the Black Knives with what they needed, effectively orchestrating her own son's death? The twinned armor set's wearer. In the Siofra Aqueduct, you can meet Dee's brother, who guards a set of twinned armor almost identical to Dee's own equipment. The brothers share armor and bodies somehow, taking turns wearing the physical form while the other exists as spirit. But how does this work? Are they literally two souls in one body? Or do they swap between two identical bodies? The twinned armor descriptions mention the two are inseparable, but the mechanics of their existence are never explained. Did they make a pact with an outer god? Were they born this way? Twins who share more than just blood. The fact that one can die while the other lives suggests they're separate individuals rather than a split personality. The Dung Eater's ultimate goal. The Dung Eater is one of Elden Ring's most disturbing characters, a serial killer who desecrates corpses in specific ways. He believes he's creating a cursed bloodline that will persist for generations. But what's his actual endgame? The Dung Eater talks about defiling the Erdtree itself, spreading his curse to all living things so that everyone will be born cursed forever. This goes beyond simple evil into philosophical territory. He seems to believe the current order is too pure, too structured, and that true freedom comes from chaos and defilement. His victims, branded with curses that affect their descendants, become walking weapons against the Golden Order's vision of a perfect world. But why does he think this is necessary? The Crucible Knight's true loyalty. The Crucible Knight served the Erdtree in its earliest form, when it was called the Crucible and represented primordial life's chaotic mixture. These elite warriors are found throughout the lands, between guarding important locations and serving various masters. But who do they actually serve now? The Erdtree has evolved beyond the Crucible, embracing order over chaos. Yet the Crucible Knights persist, wielding powers that the Golden Order considers primitive or shameful. Their incantations cause tails and horns to sprout, abilities that modern society associates with omens and curses. This suggests the Crucible Knights are living relics, holdovers from an age when such features were celebrated rather than condemned. Some Crucible Knights serve Godric, others guard Stormvale or the capital. Rykard's pre-blasphemy motivations. Before feeding himself to the god-devouring serpent, Rykard was a respected praetor and member of the Carian royal family. What drove him to become a blasphemous lord who devours gods? The serpent was already at Mount Gelmir, suggesting it predates Rykard's arrival. Did he seek it out specifically, or did he stumble upon it? Rykard's ambitions of devouring gods implies he wanted power beyond what the demigods normally possessed. Perhaps he was frustrated by his position, always overshadowed by stronger siblings like Radahn and Malenia. Or maybe he had a genuine philosophical objection to the gods' rule over mortals. Volcano Manor's recusants hunt tarnished, suggesting Rykard opposed the idea of a new Elden Lord. The minor Erdtree's purpose, scattered throughout the lands between, are smaller Erdtrees, glowing golden and guarded by Erdtree avatars. But what function do these serve? Are they extensions of the main Erdtree's root system, or independent growths? The minor Erdtrees seem to draw life from the surrounding area, as forest near them appears sickly and drained. Perhaps they're parasitic, the Erdtree expanding its influence by seeding copies of itself. Each minor Erdtree could be anchoring the Golden Order's power in different regions. making it harder for rival factions to claim territory. The avatars guarding them suggest the minor Erdtrees require active protection, implying enemies have tried to destroy them. But who and why? The Wandering Mausoleum's occupants. Massive stone structures walk through the lands between on impossibly long legs, housing the remains of demigods within. These walking mausoleums can be felled to access the corpses inside and duplicate remembrances. But who is buried in each mausoleum? Not all of them contain the demigods you've defeated. Some have empty chambers or unidentified remains. The wandering mausoleums themselves are architectural marvels, suggesting enormous resources went into creating them. But why make tombs that walk? Were the buried demigods so dangerous that their bodies needed to keep moving to prevent resurrection? Or is the walking meant to honor them somehow, ensuring they tour the lands they once ruled even in death? The Dragon Lord's lost heads. Placidusax originally had 5 heads, but when you fight him, only 2 remain. The DLC revealed that Baal tore off some during their ancient battle, but questions remain. Each head supposedly represented a connection to wisdom granted to beasts in ancient times. Losing 3 heads would mean Placidusax lost more than half his intellect and power. Yet he still functions as a formidable Elden Lord, suggesting the heads lost didn't entirely break him. Where are the missing heads now? 2 are visible on Baal's body, still biting into the dragon who stole them. But what about the 5th head, lost before Baal's betrayal? Some players theorize it was taken by another dragon or destroyed in a different conflict. The Frenzied Flame's true origin. The 3 fingers and their frenzied flame seek to burn away all life and distinction, returning everything to primordial chaos. But where did this power come from? The 3 fingers exist beneath Leyndell, imprisoned but still active. Their counterpart, the 2 fingers, supposedly communicate with the greater will. This duality of 2 and 3 suggests they were once united as a 5-fingered hand, now split into opposing philosophies. But what caused the split? Perhaps the fingers represent 2 sides of one deity, order and chaos, that couldn't coexist and fractured. The Frenzied Flame's philosophy of melting everything together contradicts the greater will's emphasis on structure and hierarchy. The Eternal City's sin, Nokron and Nokstella, the Eternal Cities, were banished underground by the greater will for committing high treason. But what exactly did they do? The Fingerslayer blade found in Nokron offers a clue. This weapon was designed to kill 2 fingers, suggesting the Nox people tried to rebel against the greater will's messengers. But crafting a weapon is one thing, using it is another. Did the Nox actually kill a 2 fingers, or was the mere attempt enough to warrant banishment? The punishment was certainly severe. Their entire civilization sent underground with a meteor, leaving them in permanent darkness. This overkill response suggests the greater will felt genuinely threatened by the Nox. The giant skeletons in the Eternal Cities. In both Nokron and Nokstella, you'll find enormous skeletons sitting on thrones, larger than even fire giants and draped in robes bearing Nox symbols. No item descriptions mention these giants, and no NPCs explain who they were. This deliberate silence makes them one of the game's most visually striking mysteries. Were these the Nox's attempts at creating artificial lords or gods? The size suggests they were meant to be imposing leaders, beings that could physically stand against the demigods. If so, the project failed spectacularly, leaving only dead giants as evidence. The positioning on thrones suggests they were rulers at some point, or at least meant to be. Miquella's original plan. Centrina was Miquella's alter ego, a personality focused on sleep and dreams. But why did Miquella create this separate identity? The DLC reveals he abandoned Centrina to pursue godhood, but their original purpose together remains unclear. Centrina helped people sleep peacefully, offering respite from nightmares. Perhaps this was Miquella's compassionate side, wanting to ease suffering while his main personality focused on political maneuvering. But creating an entire separate persona suggests deeper reasons. Was Centrina a test of divinity, Miquella practicing being multiple entities at once as preparation for godhood? Or was Trina meant to be part of a dual god system, with Miquella representing daytime order and Trina handling nighttime peace? The true nature of destined death. Malekith sealed away destined death, the rune that allows things to truly die. But what exactly is this force? In a world where death already exists, what makes destined death different? The answer seems to be permanence. Normal death in the lands between is temporary, with souls returning to the Erd Tree and potentially being reborn. Destined death kills the soul itself, preventing any return or resurrection. This makes it the ultimate weapon against immortal demigods and gods. But if destined death can kill anything permanently, where did it come from? Was it part of the original Elden Ring? A rune meant to maintain balance by ensuring even the greatest beings could die. The Fell God's current state. The fire giants worshipped the Fell God, an entity that granted them power over flame. After Marika's genocide of the giants, what happened to their god? Outer gods don't seem to die easily, if at all. The Fell God might be wounded or weakened, but probably still exists somewhere. The fire giant's eye glows red with the Fell God's power, suggesting some connection remains. If the god was truly destroyed, the giant wouldn't be able to manifest flame at all. This implies the Fell God is dormant, imprisoned, or watching from a distance, unable to act directly. The giant's curse of red hair supposedly came from the Fell God, a permanent mark that would persist even after the giant's extinction. Morgoth's secret defenders. Despite being reviled as an omen, Morgoth defended Leyndell fanatically, fighting off multiple invasions. But who, if anyone, supported him? The capital's soldiers fought under his command, but did they respect him or merely obey out of tradition? Morgoth hid his identity behind the name Margit, suggesting he knew people wouldn't follow an omen willingly. This deception worked for years, allowing him to protect Leyndell, while the Golden Order remained dormant. But someone must have known the truth. You can't rule a capital city without trusted advisors, yet we never meet anyone who worked closely with Morgoth. Perhaps he isolated himself, maintaining the throne through intimidation and the authority of his position, rather than genuine relationships. The Deathbird's purpose. These ghostly vulture-like creatures appear at night near graveyards and minor Erd trees, wielding death magic. But what are they, and where did they come from? The Deathbirds predate the Erd tree, suggesting they served an older death god, or were created to manage souls before the Golden Order existed. Their association with gravesites implies they once had an important role in death rituals, possibly ferrying souls to an afterlife. But the Erd tree's arrival made them obsolete. Souls now return to the Erd tree for rebirth, instead of moving on to whatever realm the Deathbird serviced. This left them purposeless, ghostly remnants of a religious order that no longer has meaning. Hugh's forgotten sin. The blacksmith trapped in the Round Table hold was imprisoned there by Queen Marika herself for some unspecified crime. Hugh doesn't remember what he did, his memories apparently wiped or suppressed. But Marika tasked him with forging a god-slaying weapon, suggesting his sin was severe enough to warrant eternal servitude. What could Hugh have done to earn such specific punishment? Perhaps he was a smith who served an enemy of the Golden Order, crafting weapons for the giants or dragons during their wars with Marika. Or maybe he committed a personal offense against Marika herself, failing to create something she needed or betraying her trust. The fact that his punishment involves forging weapons rather than simple imprisonment suggests his skills are the key. The lands. Between's geographic isolation. The world of Elden Ring is called the Lands Between. But between what? The name implies it exists geographically between two other significant places. Some theories suggest it's between the lands of the living and dead, a liminal space where souls can move back and forth. Others propose it's literally between other continents or countries, with the land of reeds and Newman homeland being examples of external nations. But if there are other lands, why don't we see them or interact with them? The lands between might be isolated deliberately, cut off from the wider world by the greater will to serve as an experiment or prison. Mog's Palace. Location. Mog established his dynasty in a blood-soaked palace accessed through portals scattered across the lands between. But where exactly is this palace? It exists in a space that feels separate from normal geography, a realm of perpetual blood-red twilight. Some theorize it's underground, a cavern deep beneath Caelid or the Siofra River. Others believe it's in a pocket dimension created by the Formless Mother's power, existing adjacent to reality but not quite part of it. The most disturbing possibility is that Mogwyn Palace exists inside the Formless Mother itself, a realm created from the outer god substance. If so, everyone there is literally within a deity's body, making the palace less a location and more an organism. The Mimic Tier boss's nature. In Nokron, you fight a Mimic Tier that copies your exact appearance, equipment, and abilities. But how does it work? The Silver Tiers throughout the Eternal Cities can transform into various forms, suggesting shapeshifting is standard for them. But the Mimic Tier boss does more than copy your appearance. It knows your fighting style, uses your spells correctly, and equips itself exactly as you are at that moment. This implies it reads your mind, or accesses information about you that should be private. Perhaps the Mimic Tier is connected to the Erd Tree, or some higher system that tracks all tarnished. It downloads your data and becomes you perfectly. The Fortisax battle's timeline. When you encounter Lich Dragon of Fortisax in Godwyn's dream, you're fighting an ancient dragon trying to cure his friend's death corruption. But when is this happening? The battle takes place in Godwyn's deathbed dream, suggesting it's not occurring in real time, but in some psychic space. Has Fortisax been fighting Deathroot corruption for years, battling inside Godwyn's mind while the prince's body rots in reality? Or did the fight only begin when you entered the dream, Fortisax appearing to confront an intruder? The dragon's dialogue suggests he's been trying to save Godwyn since the assassination, making this a battle that's been raging for an unknown length of time. The Godskin's motivation. The Godskin apostles and nobles serve the gloam-eyed queen, hunting gods and skinning them to wear their hides. But why? What drives this specific form of blasphemy? Skinning implies they're trying to wear divinity, literally putting on god flesh to gain power. Perhaps the Godskins believe they can become gods themselves by wearing enough divine skin. Or maybe they're conducting rituals, the skins being components in some dark ceremony. The process of creating godskin armor involves stretching divine hide over human frames, a grotesque practice that suggests body horror rather than simple fashion. Each godskin is a walking monument to their kills, their clothing proving their prowess. The Elden Stars, Incantations, Implications. This legendary incantation supposedly mimics the primordial form of the Elden Ring, depicting how it arrived in the lands between. The description mentions a golden star that became the Elden Ring, suggesting the ring came from space rather than being created by the Greater Will. But this contradicts other lore suggesting the Greater Will forged the ring deliberately. Which version is correct? Perhaps both. The golden star could be a vessel, something the Greater Will sent to the lands between carrying the Elden Ring inside. When it crashed, it became the Erd Tree, with the ring embedded in the tree's base. This would explain why you can see the ring deep within the Erd Tree during certain endings. Ranni's ultimate goal. Ranni orchestrates the Night of the Black Knives, kills her own body, and manipulates events to allow your ascent to Elden Lord specifically, so you'll usher in her Age of Stars. But what exactly does this age entail? Her ending removes the Golden Order's influence, allowing people to live free from the Greater Will's control. She speaks of a 1,000-year voyage into fear and doubt, suggesting her age won't be comfortable. People will be uncertain, lacking the guidance the Erd Tree provided. This could lead to chaos as every faction pursues their own goals without divine oversight. Or it might lead to genuine freedom, allowing society to develop naturally without gods manipulating events. The beast clergyman's split personality. Gurranq hungers for Deathroot, devouring it in his church. But Gurranq is also Malekith, Marika's shadow beast who sealed destined death. How can one being have two identities separated by geography and awareness? When you feed Gurranq enough Deathroot, he attacks you briefly before regaining composure, suggesting that death corruption is affecting his mind. Perhaps Gurranq and Malekith are the same person experiencing temporal displacement. The church exists outside normal time, allowing past and future Malekith to coexist. Or maybe Gurranq is Malekith's attempt to atone for his failure in letting destined death be stolen. The hidden path to the Haligtree. Accessing Miquella's Haligtree requires finding two halves of a secret medallion, then using them at a specific hidden lift. But who created this security system? Miquella clearly wanted the Haligtree hidden, protecting his refuge for the oppressed from those who would destroy it. But the medallion system seems elaborate for someone eternally young. Did Malenia design the security, knowing her brother needed protection? Or was it Loretta, the Haligtree Knight, who seems to serve as chief defender? The medallion's two pieces are scattered far from each other, with one half accessible through Castle Sol, and the other hidden in the Albinoric village. This geographic separation ensures no one stumbles upon both pieces accidentally. The Ancestor Spirit's consciousness. In Siofra River, you can fight ancestor spirits, ethereal deer-like beings made of light. After gathering their essence from smaller spirits, they manifest for battle. But what are they? The ancestral followers worship these spirits, suggesting they're divine beings, or at least very powerful. The spirits seem connected to nature and death, overseeing the cycle of life in underground regions. Perhaps they're older than the Erd Tree, representing a previous form of nature worship before the Golden Order arrived. The ancestral followers maintain ancient rituals, lighting pillars and offering prayers to summon the spirits. This organized worship implies a long tradition stretching back generations. The Nox Night Maiden's role. Throughout Nokron and Noxtella, you encounter Night Maidens, purple-robed sorcerers who wield gravity magic and fight with elegant movements. But what was their function in Nox society? Their fancy dress and coordinated magic suggest they were important, possibly priestesses or nobility rather than common soldiers. The fact that they still patrol the Eternal Cities after civilization's collapse implies dedication to duty or some magical compulsion. Perhaps they're undead, killed when the cities fell, but resurrected to continue defending ruins that no longer need protection. Or maybe they're immortal, cursed to guard the cities forever, as punishment for the Nox's treason against the greater will. The Two Fingers communication method. Throughout the lands between, various Two Fingers exist in locations like the Round Table Hold and Divine Towers. They supposedly communicate with the greater will, but their method of communication is bizarre and inefficient. The interpreter, Enia, explains that the Two Fingers must commune for extensive periods, sometimes years, before receiving responses. But why would a cosmic entity need years to respond to prayers? Perhaps the greater will is incredibly distant, messages taking eons to travel even through divine channels. Or maybe the greater will is dead or dormant, no longer actively managing the lands between. The Two Fingers might be on their own, interpreting static or inventing guidance because admitting the gods abandoned them would be unthinkable. The Dragon Communion alterations. Eating dragon hearts grants you the ability to cast dragon incantations, but at what cost? The Dragon Communion churches warn that those who partake will eventually transform into worms, mindless serpentine creatures. But we never see this transformation happen to the player character. Are you immune due to being tarnished? Or does the process take longer than your journey lasts? Throughout the world, you find magma worms, failed heroes who ate too many dragon hearts and evolved into monsters. Their equipment and remnants suggest they were once noble warriors, making their fate particularly tragic. The transformation seems irreversible, with no known cure or way to reverse the worm state. The Shabriri entity's origin. Shabriri, the most reviled man in history according to in-game lore, was executed for slander and spreading chaos. But his spirit possesses Yura's body later, suggesting he never truly died. What is Shabriri exactly? Is he a human who became something else? Or was he always a servant of the frenzied flame wearing human form? His ability to possess bodies suggests he's more than a ghost, possibly a demon or fragment of an outer god. The specific crime of slander seems minor compared to other villains in Elden Ring. Why would slander earn most reviled status? Perhaps his slander had massive consequences, starting wars or destroying reputations so thoroughly that civilizations fell. The envoy's heavenly source. Golden and bubble-blowing envoys appear throughout the lands between, particularly near minor Erd trees. These childlike beings supposedly herald the arrival of something divine. But what? Their presence suggests celestial forces are watching or communicating with the mortal world. But the envoys never speak, never explain their purpose, just blow bubbles and attack when threatened. Are they angels, serving the greater will? Or are they something else entirely? Their gold color links them to the Erd tree, but their bubble-based magic seems whimsical rather than holy. Perhaps they're messengers who forgot their message, trapped in the lands between after the shattering disrupted divine communication. The Cleanrot Knight's unwavering loyalty. Millennia's elite warriors, the Cleanrot Knights, stayed with her even as scarlet rot consumed their bodies. Their armor shows advanced decay, with organic matter growing through the metal. Yet they continue fighting, their devotion overcoming physical impossibility. What drives such fanaticism? Millennia must have inspired incredible loyalty to convince warriors to march into Caelid, knowing they'd be infected. Or perhaps the knights volunteered, understanding someone had to accompany their general even into the rot's heart. The fact that they're still active after Millennia's slumber suggests either supernatural stamina or undeath. Perhaps the rot preserved them, turning their bodies into vessels for the plague that somehow remain conscious. The ancestral followers' ultimate belief. These primitive-seeming warriors in Siofra River and Nokron worship ancestor spirits with elaborate rituals. But what do they believe these spirits represent? The followers seem to think the spirits are divine beings worthy of resurrection and service. Their culture appears older than the Golden Order, suggesting they maintain their faith despite pressure to convert. Perhaps they're descendants of Nock citizens who rejected their people's ambitious plans and chose simpler worship. Or maybe they're an entirely separate culture that happened to settle underground alongside the Eternal Cities. Their Stone Age aesthetic contrasts sharply with the advanced architecture around them, implying either deliberate rejection of technology or inability to maintain their ancestors' knowledge. The volcano manor contract's true purpose. Tanith sends assassins after specific tarnished, claiming they're unworthy of becoming Elden Lord. But who decides worthiness, and what makes the targets deserving of death? The contracts seem almost random, targeting tarnished who haven't committed obvious crimes. Perhaps Tanith is eliminating competition for a specific candidate she wants to become Lord. Or maybe she's fulfilling Rykard's vision, culling the weak before they can challenge the gods. Each target's location and behavior reveal interesting patterns. Some are near important areas, others seem to be investigating dangerous secrets. Killing them might be preventing discoveries that threaten Volcano Manor's operations. Roderica's noble background. She arrived at the Round Table Hold after leaving her home, having been gifted chrysalids by her compatriots. But what was Roderica's life before becoming a wandering tarnished? Her speech patterns and bearing suggest nobility, or at least high status. She refers to her companions being grafted by Godric, implying she was part of a group that ventured to Stormvale Castle. Were they soldiers, adventurers, or cultists drawn to Godric's promise of power through grafting? Roderica's gentle nature seems incompatible with willingly joining such an expedition. Perhaps she was coerced, or didn't understand what Godric truly did until arriving. The Claymen's mysterious origin. These oracle creatures inhabit eternal cities and underground areas, fighting with horn weapons and mysterious magic. But what are they? Their name suggests they're artificial. Beings created from clay like golems, but they seem too alive, too purposeful to be simple constructs. Perhaps they were the Nox's labor force, artificial workers created to build the underground cities. If so, they outlasted their creators, continuing to guard ruins long after the civilization that made them fell. The Clayman's connection to bubbles and oracles implies divination abilities. Maybe they can see the future or commune with spirits, making them valuable servants for the Nox's ambitious projects. The Mending Runes availability. Several NPCs offer you mending runes that alter the Elden Ring when you repair it, creating different endings. But how do these people have pieces of the Elden Ring? Mending runes seem to be fragments that were removed or split off during the shattering. Fea's mending rune of the Death Prince comes from Godwyn's cursed death, while Goldmask's perfect order rune represents his philosophical insights into the Golden Order's flaws. Dung-Eater's seedbed curse rune is created through his vile defilement. These origins suggest mending runes aren't physical objects, but conceptual additions, new elements being added to the ring rather than pieces that were always there. Millicent's lost sisters. The 4 rot-corrupted women you fight before reaching Millennia share Millicent's face and abilities. Are they truly sisters, or something else? Millicent doesn't remember her family, suggesting manufactured relationships or lost memories. Perhaps all 5 were created by Millennia's scarlet rot, buds sprouting from her decay that grew into independent beings. This would make them daughters of Millennia in a biological sense, though Millennia seems unaware of them. The sisters' devotion to reaching Millennia might be instinctive, offspring seeking their mother without understanding why. If they're truly Millennia's offspring, this raises disturbing questions about the Scarlet Rot's nature. The Old Lord's Talisman origin. This item depicts Placidusax and extends spell duration, with descriptions mentioning ancient sorceries from before the Erd Tree. But who were the Old Lords plural? Placidusax is the only ancient dragon lord we know of, yet the talisman's name suggests multiple rulers. Perhaps the title refers to a council or group of powerful beings who governed before the Golden Order. Placidusax might have been first among equals rather than absolute monarch. The talisman's effect on spell duration could mean the Old Lords ruled through extended rituals and sustained magic. If they cast spells that lasted years or centuries, their civilization would operate on entirely different timescales than modern society. The Three Fingers imprisonment location. Deep beneath Lendel's sewers, past the Forsaken Depths, and through a hidden door requiring you to remove your armor, the Three Fingers wait in a chamber of flame. But why are they imprisoned here specifically? The location suggests they were deliberately sealed beneath the capital city, where Marika's forces could monitor them. Perhaps the chamber was once a temple to the frenzied flame, converted into a prison after the Golden Order established dominance. The fact that you must strip naked to enter implies a ritual significance, shedding civilization's trappings to commune with chaos. Who built this prison, and when? The architecture predates most of Lendel, suggesting ancient civilizations dealt with the frenzied flame long before Marika's era. The Dancer's Castanets Mystery. Patches gives you Dancer's Castanets to deliver to Tanith after Rykard's defeat. She refuses them curtly, and nothing else happens. This seemingly pointless item has confused players since release. What were the Castanets meant to accomplish? Perhaps they're a memento from Tanith's past, as a dancer before meeting Rykard. Patches might have known her then, making this a failed attempt at reconnecting through nostalgia. Or maybe the Castanets are part of cut content, a quest line that was removed before completion, but left partial traces. The item's description mentions dignified beauty rather than seductiveness, suggesting Tanith's dancing was an art form rather than entertainment. Her rejection might signify how completely she's abandoned her former life for Rykard. The Sword of Night and Flame's origin. This unique weapon scales with intelligence and faith, while wielding both Carian sorcery and fire incantations. But who created it? And how does it channel two distinct magical traditions? The sword suggests cooperation between Carian royalty and fire worshippers, two factions that don't seem to interact elsewhere. Perhaps it was forged during Radagon's marriage to Renala. when the Golden Order and Academy briefly allied. Or maybe it predates both organizations, crafted during an earlier age when magic users weren't divided into strict schools. The weapon's location in Courier Manor suggests Carrion origins, but the fire magic implies external influence. Could this be a wedding gift exchanged between cultures, symbolizing unity that eventually fractured? The giant skeletons in Caelid. Massive skulls and rib cages larger than any giant we encounter dot Caelid's landscape. These remains dwarf even the fire giant, suggesting beings of incredible size once walked the land. But what were they? Some theorize they're ancient dragon remains, but the skull structure seems wrong for dragons. Others propose they're primordial giants predating the fire giants, perhaps the original inhabitants of the lands between. Their presence specifically in Caelid raises questions about whether Radan collected them, or they died there naturally. If Radan was fascinated by gravity magic to support his own weight, perhaps he studied these giant remains, seeking to understand how such massive beings moved. The Halig tree's growth rate. Miquella's Halig tree was supposedly created to replace the Erd tree, offering refuge to the abandoned and outcast. But how long did it take to grow? The tree appears nearly as large as the Erd tree itself, suggesting either rapid growth or ancient origins. If Miquella grew it quickly through magic, he possesses power rivaling the greater will. If it grew naturally over centuries, then Miquella's plans predate the shattering by a significant margin. The tree's sickly appearance and rot infection suggest it's failing, unable to fully replace the Erd tree's function. Perhaps Miquella's curse of eternal youth prevented him from completing the tree properly, his childish form lacking the maturity needed to nurture it to full strength. Renala's post-divorce state. After Radagon left her to marry Marika, Renala retreated into her library and lost her sanity. But her obsession with the amber egg Radagon gave her seems extreme even for heartbreak. What's actually wrong with her? The sweetings protecting her suggest she's still beloved by students, despite her madness. Perhaps she's trying to use the egg to rebirth Radagon, her experiments in rebirth being attempts to recreate her lost love. Or maybe the egg itself is cursed, Radagon deliberately leaving something that would drive her mad and neutralize the Academy as a political force. Her inability to fight properly when you encounter her twice suggests she's barely aware of reality, lost in delusions of past happiness. The Golden Order's scripture gap. The Golden Order has specific fundamentalist spells and incantations, yet many aspects of their theology remain unexplained. Why do their teachings emphasize certain mathematical principles? What's the relationship between the Golden Order and outer gods besides the greater will? The fundamentalists seem to believe they can predict and control divine power through geometric calculations, treating faith as a science. But who established these principles, and are they accurate? Perhaps the Golden Order's mathematical approach is an attempt to quantify the greater will's ineffable nature, scholars trying to make sense of divine chaos by imposing human logic. The long-tailed cat talisman's feline. This talisman depicts a cat with an unnaturally long tail and prevents fall damage. But why cats specifically? The description mentions merchants who traveled far and wide, suggesting cats were companions on their journeys. Perhaps cats in Elden Ring's world have special properties, their tails literally cushioning falls through magic. Or maybe the talisman contains a preserved cat spirit that protects the wearer. The fact that it completely negates fall damage rather than reducing it suggests powerful enchantment. Were there legendary cats in the Lands Between's history? Beasts whose abilities became the stuff of talisman craft? The Banished Knight's original allegiance. These powerful warriors appear throughout the Lands Between, with no clear faction allegiance. Their ornate armor suggests noble origins, yet they're labeled banished, implying exile. What did they do to earn banishment, and from where? Perhaps they served Godfrey during his reign as Elden Lord, and were exiled when he lost grace. Or maybe they're remnants of various kingdoms destroyed during the Shattering, soldiers who lost their homelands and now wander seeking new purpose. Some serve Godric, others guard castles and forts independently. This scattered deployment suggests they're mercenaries, selling their considerable skills to whoever pays. Their exile, having stripped away ideological loyalty. The perfumer's lost art. Perfumers create combat items using aromatic substances, but their craft seems nearly extinct. Only a few perfumers remain active, suggesting the tradition is dying. Why? Perhaps perfumery requires rare ingredients that are no longer available after the Shattering disrupted trade routes. Or maybe it's fallen out of favor compared to more direct magical approaches. The perfumer's existence implies an entire industry of scent crafting once thrived, with masters training apprentices in formulas passed down through generations. The loss of this knowledge mirrors the broader decay in the Lands Between, where every specialized skill is at risk of extinction, as fewer people have resources or stability to pursue niche crafts. The jellyfish shield's origin. This shield depicts a glowing jellyfish and can summon the spirit of a jellyfish when used. But where did it come from? Jellyfish don't naturally exist on land, suggesting this shield was crafted near water or brought from overseas. The spirit summoning implies the shield contains an actual jellyfish's consciousness, somehow bound to the metal. Perhaps it was created by someone who loved jellyfish and wanted to preserve their companion after death. Or maybe it's a practical tool, utilizing jellyfish poison delivery systems in combat. The shield's location in Liurnia near the lake suggests water-dwelling creatures were once more integrated into human society than current evidence indicates. The imp statues, stone sword keys. Throughout the Lands Between, imp-faced statues block passages until you insert stone sword keys. But who created this security system? The imp design appears across multiple cultures and locations, suggesting a standardized lock mechanism predating current civilizations. Perhaps an ancient empire established these seals, protecting valuable sites with magical keys. But why use imagery specifically? Are the statues depicting actual creatures, or is the imp face symbolic? The consistency of the system across geographically separated areas implies either a dominant ancient culture or coordination between civilizations that no longer exists. The Volcano Manor's previous owners. Before Rykard and his recusants took over, who lived at Volcano Manor? The structure predates Rykard's serpent transformation, suggesting it served other purposes. Perhaps it was a research station studying Mount Gelmir's volcanic activity. Or maybe it was a retreat for nobles seeking hot spring therapy. The manor's elaborate construction indicates wealth and importance, making it unlikely to have been built by Rykard specifically. He probably conquered or inherited the location, converting it to serve his blasphemous purposes. The presence of iron virgins as interior decorating suggests he made significant renovations, but the basic architecture remains from whoever built it originally. The frenzied flame merchant's tragedy. Beneath, Lendl. You find a merchant seemingly driven mad by the frenzied flame, surrounded by the corpses of other merchants. He rants about injustice and persecution, suggesting merchants faced systematic oppression. But who persecuted them, and why? Perhaps the Golden Order restricted merchant activities, seeing them as outside proper social hierarchy. Or maybe merchants dealt with outer gods' followers, becoming infected with forbidden knowledge. This particular merchant's descent into flame madness seems connected to witnessing the three fingers, his grief and rage making him vulnerable to chaos. His story implies the frenzied flame specifically targets the desperate and downtrodden, offering obliteration as release from suffering. The Erdtree's true age. The Erdtree is described as ancient, but exactly how old is it? Did it exist before Marika, or did her ascension create it? The age of the Erdtree supposedly replaced the age of dragons, but the transition timeline is vague. If the Erdtree grew naturally, it could be thousands or millions of years old. If it was planted or manifested by the greater will, it might be relatively young. The tree's size suggests significant age, yet its golden glow appears maintained and vibrant, rather than degraded. Perhaps the Erdtree doesn't age like normal plants, its divine nature making it immune to time's passage. Or maybe what we see as one tree is actually multiple growths, the Erdtree dying and regrowing cyclically. The Crucible's transformation. The Erdtree was originally called the Crucible and represented chaotic primordial life. But what event transformed it from accepting all life forms to enforcing Golden Order purity? Perhaps Marika's ascension marked the shift, her will imposing order on natural chaos. Or maybe the transformation was gradual, society slowly deciding which traits were acceptable and which were cursed. The Crucible Knights remember the old ways, suggesting the change happened within living memory or at least living tradition. This makes it a deliberate policy shift rather than natural evolution. Someone deciding horns and tails were unacceptable despite being natural Crucible features. The Godfrey Shade's location. Before fighting Morgott, you encounter a golden shade of Godfrey guarding the Erdtree entrance. But why is this specific illusion there? Did Morgott create it, using memories of his father to protect the capital? Or is it a security system Marika installed, programming Godfrey's image to challenge aspirants even after his exile? The Shade's dialogue suggests it has some awareness, recognizing you as tarnished and testing your worthiness. Perhaps it's a fragment of Godfrey's consciousness left behind when he was exiled, a piece of his soul that couldn't leave the capital he once ruled. Its golden hue links it to the Erdtree's power, implying the tree itself might be creating these guardian illusions. The finger reader crone's blindness. These elderly women can read the finger's messages, but all appear blind or hooded. Seeing through means other than physical sight. Why are finger readers consistently sightless? Perhaps reading the two fingers' divine messages requires sacrificing normal vision, the knowledge burning out physical eyes. Or maybe blindness enhances spiritual sight, allowing readers to perceive truths invisible to those who rely on mortal senses. Their aged appearance suggests the practice is extremely demanding. Readers burning through their lifespan to channel divine communications. The fact that multiple readers exist across the lands between indicates this was once a respected profession, now reduced to a few scattered practitioners as faith in the Golden Order wanes. The Radagon statue puzzle. In the Round Table Hold, a statue depicts Radagon that transforms into Marika when struck. This puzzle reveals their dual nature. But who created the statue? Did someone know about Radagon and Marika being one entity and memorialize it in art Or is the statue itself magical, automatically reflecting the truth to those who seek it? The transformation mechanic implies the statue serves an educational purpose, teaching seekers about the god's true nature. Perhaps it was created by Marika herself, a confession in stone for those clever enough to discover it. Or maybe it's Radagon's work, his scholar nature compelling him to document even his own strange existence. The Caelid Wild's pre-rot state. Before millennia bloomed and infected Caelid with scarlet rot, what was the region like? Based on architecture and remaining structures, it appears to have been relatively prosperous with normal vegetation. Radagon's presence suggests it was militarily important, possibly serving as a buffer zone between different factions. The sudden transformation from presumably lush lands to rotted wasteland must have been catastrophic for local populations. Survivors fled or died, leaving only rot-resistant creatures and desperate scavengers. The tragedy is that Caelid's destruction was collateral damage from millennia and Radagon's duel, an entire region sacrificed in demigods' conflict. The few NPCs remaining in Caelid speak of better times, their stories hinting at a past very different from the nightmare present. The Round Table holds dimensional status. The Round Table Hold exists as a separate space accessed from sites of grace, not through normal travel. But is it a real location or a spiritual construct? Some describe it as existing outside the world, suggesting it's in a pocket dimension. If so, who created this space and what maintains it? Perhaps the hold was designed as a sanctuary where grace-guided individuals could meet safely, removed from the lands between dangers. The hold's gradual destruction as you progress suggests it's connected to the Erdtree's health, decaying as the Golden Order collapses. When the hold burns, is it reflecting Lendel's fall? Or is it experiencing its own separate catastrophe? The Ashes of War memories. Spirit ashes and ashes of war contain memories and techniques from the dead. But how are these memories extracted and preserved? The process implies someone with incredible skill was systematically recording warriors' techniques before they died or shortly after. Perhaps there were memory keepers, specialists who captured fighters' knowledge to pass on to future generations. Or maybe the technique involves necromancy, literally pulling information from corpses. The fact that you can modify ashes of war suggests they're more like blueprints than literal ghosts, conceptual frameworks that can be adapted. This makes them similar to the Erdtree's rebirth function, recycling souls, but also recycling knowledge. The Glintstone Dragon Hunt. Glintstone dragons like Smaragd and Adula are hunted by the Academy of Raya Lucaria for their glintstone hearts. But why are these dragons so valuable to sorcerers? Do their hearts contain unique magical properties unavailable elsewhere? Perhaps glintstone dragons process raw magic differently than humans, their organs serving as natural catalysts for spells. Hunting them to extinction for academic research mirrors real-world exploitation of rare species, suggesting even the enlightened academy isn't above ruthless pragmatism. The dragons' decreasing numbers indicate they're losing this war, each death fueling sorcerous advancement while bringing the species closer to annihilation. The Latenna and Lobo story. Latenna is searching for her wolf companion Lobo, eventually finding him dead. But their relationship suggests deeper bonds than typical pet-owner dynamics. Perhaps Lobo was Latenna's shadow in an Albinoric equivalent to the Empyrean system. Or maybe they were spiritually linked, Lobo serving as Latenna's mobility, since first-generation Albinorics have weak legs. His death would then represent not just losing a friend, but losing part of herself. Her quest to reach the Haligtree becomes pilgrimage, honoring Lobo's memory by completing their shared goal. The fact that you can summon her as a spirit ash suggests she achieves some peace, her story ending in service rather than defeat. The Divine Tower's activation requirement. Each Divine Tower requires a corresponding Great Rune to activate, but why? The towers seem designed for this specific function, suggesting they were built or retrofitted after the shattering. Perhaps Marika created them as contingency plans, places where new bearers of great runes could fully claim their power. Or maybe the towers predate the Elden Ring, serving similar purposes for previous cosmic artifacts. Their height suggests they're attempting to reach something, possibly communicating with outer gods or drawing power from celestial sources. The two fingers at each tower's peak implies they're bridges between mortal and divine realms. The Godskin Nobles wield form. When Godskin Nobles enter their second phase, they curl into wheels and roll around, devastatingly. But why can they do this? Is it a natural ability of their bodies, or a technique they learned? The rolling suggests flexibility far beyond human capacity, their spines and joints working in ways that should be impossible. Perhaps the godskin they wear grants this mobility, divine flesh being more malleable than mortal tissue. Or maybe they've modified their bodies through dark rituals, sacrificing human limitations for combat effectiveness. The move's brutality implies it's a last resort, godskins knowing they appear ridiculous but not caring because it's effective. The Fire Monks' lost monastery. Fire monks and fire prelates appear across the lands between, but no central monastery or church exists for them. Where did they train, and what happened to their holy sites? Perhaps the Golden Order suppressed fire worship, destroying temples and scattering adherents. The fire monks' continued devotion, despite persecution, suggests deep faith or knowledge of truths the Golden's Order once hidden. Some work on Flame Peak tending the forge, implying uneasy truces between fire monks and other factions. Their split loyalty between fire and Erdtree creates tension, servants divided between old gods and new. The Sacred Tear's true origin. These golden teardrops enhance your healing flask, but their source is mysterious. Are they literally the Erdtree's tears, some liquid essence of divinity? Or are they metaphorical, representing grace or divine favor? The tears appear in churches, suggesting religious significance beyond mere practicality. Perhaps they're crystallized prayers, faith made manifest through rituals performed by devoted clergy. Their scarcity implies they're difficult to produce or find, making each tear precious. The fact that they permanently enhance your flask suggests they're not consumed but integrated, becoming part of your spiritual framework. The Recusant Fingers distribution. Volcano Manor distributes Recusant Fingers, allowing invasion of other tarnished worlds. But how do these items work, and why do they target specific people? The fingers seem attuned to particular individuals, letting you invade only those Tanith designates. This implies sophisticated tracking magic, the manor monitoring all tarnished across the lands between. Perhaps the fingers are fragments of a larger whole, pieces broken off from some central artifact that maintain connection to the original. Or maybe they're parasitic, attaching to targets and creating invasion pathways. The system's existence suggests infrastructure supporting interworld travel, technology, or magic that most civilizations don't possess. The Redmane Festival's true purpose. Castle Redmane hosts a festival specifically to gather warriors strong enough to kill Radan. But who organized this event, and why now specifically? Perhaps Radan's loyal soldiers decided their general's suffering had gone on long enough, arranging a mercy killing disguised as honor duel. Or maybe Jeren orchestrated everything, using the festival as cover for an assassination he knows Radan deserves, but couldn't perform himself. The festival's timing coinciding with your arrival seems too convenient, suggesting someone tracked your progress and timed the event accordingly. Perhaps the stars themselves demanded it. Cosmic forces moving events to ensure Radan's death freed the celestial bodies he'd imprisoned. The guidance of Grace's mechanism. Sights of Grace grant guidance, showing golden light pointing toward your next goal. But how does Grace know where you should go? Is it purely Marika's will, her divine plan still operating despite her imprisonment? Or has the greater will taken direct control, manipulating Tarnished like chess pieces? The fact that different Tarnished receive different guidance suggests personalized plans for each individual. Perhaps Grace adapts to your choices, calculating optimal paths based on your behavior. Or maybe multiple futures exist simultaneously, Grace showing just one possibility among many. The loss of Grace when you embrace the frenzied flame proves it's conditional, a privilege that can be revoked if you betray its purpose. The Black Knife armor's silence. The Black Knife assassins wear armor that completely silences their movements, allowing them to walk undetected. But how does fabric and leather achieve this impossible feat? Perhaps the armor is woven with death magic, the same power that killed Godwyn. If destined death can silence life itself, maybe it can silence sound, or the armor might be enchanted with void magic, creating pockets of absolute stillness around the wearer. The Newman's connection to shadows suggests they understand manipulating darkness and silence in ways other races don't. Their assassin tradition might span millennia, with techniques refined over countless generations. The fact that you can wear this armor and experience the same silence proves it's not a personal ability but a property of the equipment itself. The colossal weapon's impracticality. Throughout the lands between, you find weapons so massive they should be impossible to wield. Greatswords taller than their users, hammers that should require multiple people to lift. Yet individuals swing these weapons with relative ease. Are people in this world simply stronger than reality allows? Or does the Erdtree's influence enhance physical capabilities beyond normal limits? Perhaps great runes grant strength their bearers don't consciously recognize, augmenting muscles and bones to handle impossible weights. The demigods' massive weapons make sense given their divine heritage, but common soldiers also wield oversized armaments. This suggests either humanity evolved differently in the lands between, or magical enhancement is so commonplace it's considered normal. The merchant's bell bearings. When merchants die, they drop bell bearings that transfer their inventory to the twin maiden husks. But how does this system work? Are the bells literally recording every item the merchant owned? Perhaps they're magical ledgers, automatically updating whenever goods change hands. Or maybe they're soul fragments, pieces of the merchant's consciousness bound to their profession. If so, giving the bells to the twin maidens might be trapping merchant spirits in perpetual servitude, forcing them to work even after death. The bell's ubiquity suggests an organized system, possibly established by some ancient merchant guild. But if every merchant has one, who creates them? And why do they all function identically? The Scarlet Rot's sentience. Millennia spread Scarlet Rot, but the plague sometimes seems to have its own intelligence. It moves strategically, targeting important locations and transforming landscapes in ways that feel purposeful. Could the rot be alive? A vast fungal consciousness that thinks and plans? Perhaps the god of rot isn't a distant entity, but the collective awareness of all rot-infected matter. Every rotted tree, every sick creature might be neurons in a vast distributed brain. Millennia wouldn't be spreading mindless plague, but allowing an alien intelligence to expand its reach. Her blooming becomes the rot god speaking through her, using her demigod power to achieve goals incomprehensible to mortal minds. This would explain why clean rot knights remain functional despite infection, the rot choosing to preserve useful servants rather than consuming everything indiscriminately. The glintstone mine's depletion. Raya Lucaria depends on glintstone for magical research, but the mines are running dry. You see this in Liurnia's various caverns, where glintstone clusters are sparse and heavily guarded. What happens when the supply exhausts completely? Will sorcery become impossible? Or will mages discover alternative power sources? Perhaps the glintstone shortage is why Renala's academy stagnated, research grinding to a halt as materials ran out. The academy's isolation and decline might not be purely political, but economic. A civilization dependent on a finite resource watching helplessly as that resource depletes. Future generations might remember glintstone sorcery as a lost art, techniques that can't be replicated without materials that no longer exist. The round table holds table. At the center of the hold sits a large round table that's never used. NPCs gather in the hold but never sit at the table, as if avoiding it deliberately. Was this table meant for councils of Tarnished? Meetings that never happen because of mistrust and competition? Perhaps in an ideal world, all Tarnished would cooperate, planning their approach to the Elden Throne together. The table's central position suggests it should be important, yet it's treated as decoration. Maybe the table itself is cursed or sacred, sitting there prohibited except for specific ceremonies. Or perhaps it's a memorial, commemorating past gatherings that ended in betrayal. A reminder of why Tarnished don't trust each other. The Red Wolf of Radagon's nature. This wolf guards the debate parlor at Raya Lucaria and is found again in the consecrated snowfield. But what is it? The name suggests connection to Radagon. But was it his pet, his familiar, or something else? Perhaps it's a manifestation of Radagon's will, a magical construct rather than actual animal. Its red fur matches Radagon's red hair, suggesting they share essence or origin. If so, the wolf might be a piece of Radagon's soul-given form, his warrior nature externalized as a beast. The fact that you fight multiple versions suggests either he created several wolves, or the one wolf can manifest in multiple locations. Its presence at the academy after Radagon left implies it was stationed there deliberately, guarding knowledge or preventing certain discoveries. The Selen's transformations mechanism. When Selen's quest concludes, her body transforms into a grotesque ball of faces, students and sorcerers merged into one mass. But how did this happen? Was it intentional? Her attempt to commune with the primeval current going horribly wrong? Or did someone sabotage her? Perhaps the Academy's leadership punishing her heretical research? The merged faces suggest multiple consciousnesses trapped in one body, all competing for control. This could be what happens when too many sorcerers try to access the primeval current simultaneously, their minds merging as they touch the same infinite knowledge. Selen's fate serves as warning about the cost of ambition, proof that some knowledge truly is forbidden not for political reasons, but because comprehending it requires sacrificing humanity. The Ansel River's depth. The Ansel River flows far below ground, deeper than should be possible based on surface geography. Does it connect to some primordial ocean, or is it magically sustained? The river's presence suggests vast underground water systems exist beneath the lands between, entire ecosystems, hidden from surface dwellers. Perhaps before the Ur Tree, this was how the world worked, with civilizations primarily underground. The river's flow implies it comes from somewhere and goes somewhere, with entrance and exit points no one's discovered. Following it upstream or downstream might lead to entirely new regions, places the Greater Will doesn't control or even know about. The presence of malformed stars and ancient creatures suggests the river predates current civilizations by immense timeframes. The Fear's deathbed companion role. Fear embraces champions and drains their vigor to spread death across the lands between. But who established the deathbed companion tradition? And what was its original purpose? Perhaps before destined death was sealed, deathbed companions served a legitimate function, helping the dying transition peacefully. Fear might be practicing a corrupted version of sacred rituals, techniques meant for kindness, twisted into weapons. Or maybe deathbed companions were always controversial, practitioners who believed death should be embraced rather than feared. The Golden Order probably suppressed them, hunting practitioners to extinction. Fear's existence as the last of her kind makes her a living fossil, preserving traditions the modern world once forgotten. Her hugs aren't violations but sacred acts, offering what her faith considers comfort, even if the recipient doesn't want it. The Great Lift of Dectus's engineering. This massive elevator connects Leonia to Altus Plateau, a feat of engineering requiring advanced knowledge. Who built it and how does it operate? The lift moves smoothly despite its size, suggesting magical or mechanical systems lost to time. Perhaps an ancient civilization spanned both regions and created the lift for trade and travel. The medallion requirement implies it wasn't public transportation, but restricted access, used only by approved individuals. Maybe the lift was military infrastructure, allowing rapid troop movement between strategic locations. Its current state, still functional after who knows how long, proves the builders intended it to last. The question is whether they succeeded beyond expectations, or someone maintains it secretly. The Volcano Manor's iron virgin transporters. These torture devices teleport you to strange locations when they grab you. But why would torture implements have teleportation abilities? Perhaps they're not meant to torture, but to transport, their threatening appearance being security theater. Or maybe the teleportation is the torture, victims experiencing spatial displacement that damages their minds or souls. The Virgin's presence in Volcano Manor suggests Rykard imported them for specific purposes. If they teleport victims to Volcano Manor, maybe they're recruitment tools, capturing strong warriors to join the recusants or be devoured. Their mechanical nature implies they're crafted rather than living, which raises questions about who manufactures such specialized, horrifying equipment. The Godfrey Spirit Warriors. During the Godfrey fight, he summons phantom warriors that assist him. But who are these spirits? Perhaps they're champions who fell fighting alongside him, their loyalty so strong they return from death to serve. Or maybe they're fragments of Huaralu's warrior spirit, pieces of his savage nature that he separated when becoming civilized Godfrey. The Lion Serosh suppresses Godfrey's bloodlust, but maybe part of that suppressed power manifests as these phantom soldiers. If so, they represent Godfrey's truest self, the aspects of his personality deemed too violent for an Elden Lord. Fighting them means confronting the rage Godfrey has spent a lifetime containing, experiencing firsthand the beast Serosh keeps chained. The Carian royal family's blue magic. The Carians wield distinct blue glintstone sorcery, different from the Academy's gold-tinted spells. What causes this color difference, and does it indicate different magical traditions? Perhaps the Carians discovered unique glintstone deposits that produce blue magic, making their spells fundamentally different from other sorcerers. Or maybe the color reflects Carian blood, their royal lineage granting natural affinity for a specific magical frequency. Renala and her children all use blue magic, supporting the hereditary theory. If magic color is genetic, then studying sorcerers' spellwork would reveal family trees and hidden relationships. The blue might also indicate moon influence, Renala's connection to the dark moon manifesting as blue-tinted spells that regular Academy members can't replicate. The valiant gargoyle's purpose. These stone warriors guard the Siofra aqueduct and other locations, but what are they defending? Perhaps they're remnants of the Eternal City's security systems, constructs that continued functioning after their creators vanished. Or maybe they're newer additions, placed by someone who discovered the underground, cities, and wanted to protect what remains. The gargoyles' poison-based attacks suggest they're designed specifically against living flesh, implying their creators anticipated biological invaders rather than magical or mechanical threats. Their placement at key choke points shows strategic thinking, whoever deployed them understanding defensive architecture. The fact that two gargoyles work together implies they're either intelligent enough to coordinate or programmed with sophisticated combat algorithms. The snowfield's cursed teleportation. In the consecrated snowfield, invisible teleporter traps can send you to Cave of the Forlorn without warning. But who placed these traps, and why? Perhaps they're defensive measures, keeping intruders away from the Haligtree by confusing and dividing invasion forces. Or maybe they're failed attempts at creating stable portals, magic gone wrong that now dumps travelers in random caves. The invisibility suggests whoever created them wanted victims, caught off guard, unable to avoid or prepare for displacement. This implies malicious intent rather than accident. These aren't broken teleporters, but working traps. The question is whether Miquella authorized them, protecting his tree with spatial tricks, or someone else poisoned the snowfield to prevent Miquella's refugees from finding their destination. The kindred of Rot's origins. These insectoid creatures infest Caelid and areas near Lake of Rot. But are they natural animals mutated by scarlet rot or something else? Perhaps they're the god of Rot's true form, the plague made flesh. Every kindred might be an extension of the Rot god's consciousness, allowing it to perceive and interact with the world through countless bodies. If so, killing them means nothing. They're just appendages of something vast and distributed. Or maybe they predate millennia's infection, native to Caelid's ecology before scarlet rot arrived. If the kindred lived here first, perhaps they're adapted to the plague, able to process rot energy that kills other creatures. This would make them indicators of Caelid's past, showing what the region's ecosystem looked like before the war. The isolated merchant's eternal patience. Across the lands between, lone merchants sit in caves and ruins, waiting for customers who rarely come. How do they survive? Do they eat, sleep, or are they sustained by something supernatural? Perhaps they're not fully human anymore, transformed by their profession into beings that exist primarily to trade. The bell bearings prove they're linked to some greater commercial system, making each merchant a node in a vast network. Maybe this network sustains them, drawing power from every transaction conducted across all merchants. Or they could be cursed to trade forever, unable to leave their post no matter how long they wait. Their patient acceptance of isolation suggests either deep faith in their purpose or inability to imagine alternative existences. The walking mausoleum's bell tolling. The bells on walking mausoleums ring constantly, mournful tones echoing across the landscape. But who are they calling? Perhaps the bells summon the dead, trying to resurrect the demigods housed inside. Or maybe they're warnings, alerting the living that the mausoleums approach. The constant tolling suggests compulsion rather than choice. The mausoleum's unable to stop ringing even if they wanted to. This could be part of their curse, forced to announce their mourning eternally. The bells might also be prayers, mechanical devotions offered on behalf of deceased demigods. If so, the mausoleums are walking temples, mobile churches conducting perpetual funerals for gods who refuse to rest peacefully. The Lendell sewers lost population. Below the capital, extensive sewers house creatures, merchants, and strange altars. But the sewers seem too developed for mere waste management. Perhaps they were living spaces, an entire underground community existing beneath, the nobles above. The architecture suggests planning and permanence, not temporary shelter. Maybe lower-class citizens lived here, a stratified society where the poor literally dwelt in filth, while elite enjoyed sunlight. Or the sewers could predate Lendell, remnants of an older city buried when the capital expanded upward. The shunning grounds confirm people lived below, but their culture and history remain unexplained. Were they refugees, criminals, or simply the poor? Did they have their own government, or did Lendell's rule extend underground? The ancient hero of Zamor's tragedy. These warriors appear as bosses in various locations, their ice magic and beast-like appearance marking them as former heroes corrupted or cursed. But who were they originally? Perhaps they fought for the giants against Marika, their heroism on the losing side marking them as villains in history. Or maybe they served Marika initially, but were transformed as punishment for failure or betrayal. Their ancient designation suggests they're from ages past, survivors of conflicts long forgotten. The Zamer armor descriptions hint at a civilization that opposed the Erd Tree, making these heroes defenders of a lost cause. Their transformation into repeated boss encounters strips away individuality, reducing heroes to obstacles. This might be their actual curse, forced to fight endlessly without purpose or identity, remembered only as enemies rather than champions. The festering fingerprint. Vike's frenzied embrace. Round table. Vike is the closest anyone came to becoming Elden Lord before you, but he embraced the frenzied flame to save someone, and was imprisoned for it. Who was he trying to save, and did it work? Perhaps he had a maiden like you, and the frenzied flame promised to spare her life. Or maybe he was protecting all tarnished, believing the flame's madness was preferable to the world's continued suffering. His fingerprints burned into his armor suggest the three fingers literally branded him, marking him permanently as Chaos's servant. The fact that he's imprisoned rather than executed implies he's too dangerous to kill, but too valuable to waste. Maybe the Round Table Keepers hope to cure him, or perhaps they're studying him, trying to understand how frenzied flame infection works. The Mimic Veil's reality warping. This item lets you disguise yourself as objects, transforming into barrels, statues, or furniture. But this isn't illusion. Your body actually changes shape. How is this possible without causing catastrophic biological damage? Perhaps the mimic veil contains Silvertear essence, granting their shape-shifting ability to the user temporarily. Or maybe it works by convincing reality itself that you're an object, rewriting physics through sheer belief. The fact that hostile creatures ignore you when transformed proves the disguise fools even animal senses, suggesting reality truly accepts your changed state. This opens philosophical questions about identity and form. If you can become anything, are you still yourself? The veil might be fragmenting your sense of self each use, slowly eroding the boundaries that define you as individual. The Rolled Medallion's singular authority. This medallion grants access to the mountaintops, but unlike the Dectus medallion, which has two halves, the Rolled Medallion is complete and singular. This implies only one person should access that route, or that the pass was meant to be more restricted. Perhaps the medallion was Morgoth's personal key, his method of secretly reaching the forge without anyone knowing. If so, you're using the Omen King's escape route, following paths he walked while protecting the capital. Or maybe it belonged to the Fire Giant's keepers, warriors who tended the forge and needed reliable access. Its location in a cold, remote fortress suggests it was deliberately hidden, kept away from those who might misuse the mountain pass. The Perfumatricia's lost love. At the unsightly catacombs, Perfumatricia guards the area, suggesting she has reason to protect this specific tomb. Perhaps her loved one is buried here, someone important enough that she devoted her life to standing watch. Or maybe she's waiting for someone to return, a promise made long ago that keeps her at this post despite danger and isolation. Her perfumer skills indicate she was educated and refined, making her presence in a remote catacomb unusual. Maybe she fled here, hiding from enemies while protecting secrets the catacombs contain. Her defensive behavior suggests she's not merely guarding the dead, but actively preventing you from discovering something, knowledge or treasure she believes should stay buried. The Golem's arrow rain. Some golems can rain magical arrows from the sky, manifesting ammunition from nowhere. But where do these arrows come from? Perhaps they're pulling matter from the air, converting surrounding elements into projectiles. Or maybe they're summoning arrows from an extra-dimensional space, accessing an infinite armory. The Golem's creators must have been incredibly skilled, programming constructs with reality warping capabilities. These aren't simple animated statues, but sophisticated magical machines. Their construction implies an entire industry of golem crafting once existed, workshops where specialists inscribed runes and embedded power sources. The loss of this knowledge means modern civilizations can't replicate or even properly repair existing golems, only watch as ancient wonders slowly break down. The isolated tower's mysterious architecture. Throughout the lands between, abandoned towers stand alone, their purpose unclear. Some house powerful enemies, others contain treasure, but many are empty, serving no obvious function. Perhaps they were watchtowers for civilizations that no longer exist, sentinels that outlasted the societies they protected. Or maybe they're markers, monuments, indicating locations significant for reasons lost to time. The tower's uniform construction suggests they're connected, possibly parts of a network that communicated through signals or magic. If so, finding the right tower and activating it might reveal the entire system, showing a web of ancient infrastructure spanning the lands between. The towers might have been built to watch the stars, early attempts at astronomy or astrology that helped civilizations predict or prepare for cosmic events. The Fingerslayer blade's unused potential. Rani uses this blade to kill her 2 fingers, but you never see the actual murder. Did she succeed, or did the blade merely damage the finger? Perhaps the weapon's name is aspirational. It's designed to kill fingers, but hasn't succeeded yet. If so, Rani might still be fighting her 2 fingers, a conflict occurring off-screen throughout your adventure. Or maybe the blade worked too well, killing not just Rani's finger, but damaging the entire 2-finger network. This would explain why the other fingers seem less responsive. They're wounded by proxy through their connection to Rani's dead finger. The blade's power threatens the entire Golden Order's foundation, proving the Nox came closer to destroying the gods' communication system than history admits. The Erdtree Avatar's distributed consciousness. These guardians appear at multiple locations simultaneously, raising questions about whether they're individual beings or manifestations of one entity. Perhaps there's a prime Erdtree Avatar, and all others are its projections. Or maybe they're grown from the Erdtree itself, each minor tree budding a guardian that shares consciousness with the main tree. If the avatars are truly connected, then every encounter you have is observed by the entire network. The Erdtree itself might be watching through their eyes, studying Tarnished who challenge its guardians. This would make the avatars more than bosses. They're literal extensions of the God Tree's awareness, its immune system, responding to threats. Killing them might hurt the Erdtree directly, each avatar's death weakening the tree's ability to perceive and defend itself. The Stormveil basement's grafted horror. Deep in Stormveil's lowest levels, you find partially constructed grafted beings, experiments that never made it to Godric's throne room. These failures suggest Godric's grafting had a high failure rate, with most attempts creating mindless monsters rather than useful soldiers. But what happened to his successful grafts? Do any survive beyond his personal body? Perhaps Stormveil is full of grafted people living normal lives, their modifications hidden beneath clothing. Or maybe the successful grafts were all consumed by Godric eventually, his hunger for more limbs, causing him to harvest even functioning grafts from his own creations. The basement's horror show proves Godric's ambition exceeded his skill. A demigod trying to emulate better siblings through brute force and failing miserably. The corpse piles testament to his desperation, hundreds or thousands dying to fuel one man's inadequacy. The Carian Knight's oath duration. Carian Knights served the royal family with absolute loyalty, continuing their duty even after the family collapsed. But does their oath have an end? Perhaps it's bound to their lives, forcing service until death. Or maybe it's spiritual, persisting even into undeath. The Knight's discipline and skills suggest professional soldiers rather than fanatics. Yet they maintain posts despite having no one left to protect. This implies either magical compulsion or cultural conditioning so strong it overrides self-preservation. Perhaps becoming a Carian Knight involves ritual that fundamentally alters the warrior's nature, literally rewriting their soul's priorities. If so, they can't disobey, even if they wanted to, their oath encoded at a level deeper than conscious thought. This would make them tragic figures, bound by choices made before understanding the full consequences. The consecrated snowfield's eternal winter. This region's perpetual blizzard obscures visibility and slows movement. But what causes the weather? Perhaps it's natural, a geographic quirk creating permanent storm conditions. Or maybe it's magical, someone casting continuous weather spells to hide the Haligtree. The snowfield's location near Miquella's refuge suggests it's defensive, harsh conditions deterring all but the most determined invaders. If Miquella created this weather, his power is immense, maintaining a region-spanning spell indefinitely. Or perhaps it's his tree's doing, the Halig tree affecting local climate, like the Erd tree does. The snow might be spiritual rather than physical, conceptual coldness representing rejection of the Golden Order's warmth. Entering the snowfield means leaving the Erd tree's domain, venturing into territory where different rules apply. The Stormveil Underground Road's traffic. Beneath Stormveil runs an underground road, suggesting significant traffic once past this route. But why build a hidden road when surface paths exist? Perhaps it was smuggling infrastructure, allowing goods to move without inspection. Or maybe it's military, troops maneuvering secretly to surprise enemies. The road's excellent condition, despite apparent abandonment, proves it was well constructed and maintained. Perhaps workers still live down there, an entire underground community no one above knows about. Or the road might be newer than the castle, built after Stormveil became contested territory. If so, someone invested enormous resources creating alternate routes, implying the surface became too dangerous for regular travel. The road might connect to extensive cave systems, providing emergency evacuation routes if the castle fell. The Hidden Village's Albinoric Massacre. Near the Moonlight Altar, you find a village of massacred Albinorics, their bodies littering the streets. But who killed them and why? Perhaps it was a hate crime, locals deciding to purge the artificial beings from their land. Or maybe it was coordinated assassination, eliminating Albinorics who knew dangerous secrets. The village's remote location suggests these Albinorics were hiding, making the massacre feel like it required significant effort to execute. Someone hunted them down specifically, traveling far to reach this isolated community. The lack of survivors implies either complete success or that survivors fled. If Albinorics escaped, they're carrying trauma and knowledge about who killed their people, potentially seeking revenge, or at least answers about why they were targeted.